Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Petafi. Today we are going to have the showdown in the Senate where the vote of no confidence against the chairman Senate is going to either pass or it is going to fail. As far as the number game goes, we know that the opposition parties at this moment have comfortable lead. But when you talk about the voting process, it is a secret ballot. In that situation, usually it is allowed for people to vote according to their conscience, not merely party allegiance. And that's why there has been speculation that perhaps the chairman Senate might survive. But the broader question that we have been repeatedly asking in this program is, why do it? Why now? And it seems astoundingly, because only 1 year ago, slightly more than 1 year ago, when People's Party actually decided not to back its own candidate for Chairman Senate, and then Asif Ali Zardari, the former president and head honcho of People's Party, actually did something very interesting. He went to Balochistan, sat there, spent a lot of money by his own party's account, and ended up manufacturing a government there. And then he came back here and changed the chairman Senate too. The incumbent chairman Senate became chairman Senate with zero experience because of his support. And after that, now it seems that since he has been apprehended, he is being held accountable. Once again, his party has decided to remove the chairman Senate to make a statement. What is the worth of human beings? A person who came there at the start, we had apprehensions. After some time, we have seen that he has passed muster. He has proven that he is capable of running the house. And now once he has the experience, the opposition parties once again want to change him. And then the entire jubilation, even if they manage to do it, is going to be short-lived. Why? Because in around 14 or 16 months, we are going to have another election on Senate. And with that, the composition will so change that once again the chairman Senate might have to change. Today we are going to talk about this show of power, this contest between the ruling party or ruling alliance and the opposition, and we are then going to talk about the pledges of agitation against the government as well. These are important issues. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Zagham Khan Sahab, a senior analyst and a columnist, one of my favorite columnists. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Arif Chaudhry Sahab, appears regularly on television, has appeared on this program as well, a senior lawyer and constitutionalist. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Javed Jadoon Sahab, a senior journalist, has worked with the state institutions as well. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Zagham Khan Sahab, I have to start with you and I have to ask you, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win tomorrow?
Well, the opposition should be able to change the chairman Senate and bring its own man.
Okay.
It's very natural. They have numbers. They have 2/3 numbers.
Okay.
And there should be no problem. And I think it should not. I mean, Sadiq Sanjarani Sahab has done his job well for a year. And even if he is defeated, he will leave this post in an honorable manner. It's a democratic process.
Okay.
In democratic process, you lose and win in your constituency and as well as in these constitutional positions.
Right.
I don't think, there is any insult to him.
Right.
And we should not portray it in that manner.
I understand you're talking about democratic process, but there is also the matter of democratic principles, where you bring about a change when there is a need. And astoundingly, it seems the only change that we have seen is Asif Ali Zardari is now behind bars. And after that, all of a sudden, his party and the opposition parties have decided to actually bring down the house they actually erected.
Well, in democracy, you don't bring change when there is a need. You bring the change when do you have numbers.
Okay.
when a group.
You had numbers 6 months ago.
Of course, I mean, but they decided now. They could have decided 6 months ago. It's their choice. They decided
what
now.
changed?
Look, I mean, when a party or a group of parties, an alliance of parties, they have numbers. It's very natural for them to have their own person at one of such an important position. It's one of the top constitutional positions in the country,
Right.
and it is natural for the parties. Now, alignment has changed. It's very natural in democracies for the parties to change alignments.
Right.
The alignment has changed. We know, I mean, a year ago, PTI, both PTI and the People's Party, they were in opposition. So it was natural for them to.
Slightly before 1 year, because
Yeah.
1 year ago this government
There were
was
elections,
formed.
I mean, before 1 year. I mean,
Yeah.
they were in opposition, both were in opposition. They have some sort of an informal alliance.
Right.
And as you refer to, there some sort of understanding as well. Maybe Zardari Sahab and People's Party was under the impression that this is part of some bigger deal.
Okay.
We don't know. I mean, what kind of
They
there
were
was a
under
deal.
the impression, or they were giving this impression?
Well, we don't know. I mean, because we will be speculating.
Okay.
I mean,
And we
but
are going to speculate because we don't have that
We
kind
don't
of
have
facts,
any,
at
facts with
hand.
us.
But let me actually bring in Arif Chaudhry Sahab. Arif Chaudhry Sahab, who do you think is going to win tomorrow?
It's, I don't agree with Mr. Zagam. Still, it's a very big question mark and $1 million question. Who is going to be the next chief of the Senate tomorrow?
Okay.
Actually, question is very important, not with respect to number and not with respect to democracy and number game, how it changes.
So,
You, in your intro, has very rightly pointed out one thing, which is the crux of the matter, and we should not lose our sight on that issue.
so.
Asif Ali Zardari, whenever is confronted with allegations, those allegations regarding corruption,
So,
about his tenures or whenever he was in that situation, so he has certain cards to play.
so.
Sometime he comes up with Sindh card.
Okay.
Sometimes, he threatened the establishment, Eent Saint baja denge.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now things have really been very hard for him to deal as far as these new cases are concerned.
So,
He wants to convey a message very loud and clear
to whom?
to the establishment.
Okay.
Where
That is
he-
the armed forces.
Establishment, whatever the meaning of establishment are.
you would
It
know.
is
You-
never.
you'll have to help me
I
understand.
know it is not only army. It is establishment all over the world. Is never army alone. It is,
Bureaucracy then, sir?
it's a total conglomerate of, or rather synthesis of different forces who are looking after the interest of the country, and they are the arch, architects of that system, and
Okay.
really they have to run the show.
Okay.
So he wants to convey, even at that point in time, so home he wanted to deliver the message when he was saying, in Said baja denge, the message was loud and clear to certain forces where he thought, or I don't know whether he was right in his thinking that something was being maneuvered or something was being done on behalf of the,
Establishment.
or it was his own doing and naturally he has to suffer.
If you remember that speech, in Saint, in that he was very clear that you stay for 3 years and we are going to stay here forever.
Yeah.
So it was a clear reference to Rahil Sharif, the army
So
chief
you
of
have
that
made my
time.
job easier.
Yeah.
If we stay tuned to that speech,
Yeah.
we don't have to run here and then there, and we have to stick to that. That his main focus is that he wants that one way or the other, the pressure on him regarding these cases should be taken off.
Right.
And for that matter, otherwise, Senate is there and the number game is there, and the government doesn't have any majority in the Senate.
Right.
No legislation can go through the Senate. Even they cannot pass any legislation through even the our Parliament. The lower house, both the houses. Notwithstanding the fact that they have majority in this lower house, in the upper house they don't have majority, but lower house they cannot pass any legislation, which
yeah.
tangible, which really has its far-reaching effects on the life of the nation. So that's the problem where they are unable to deliver.
Yeah.
So right now, why this has become a tussle, a tug of war between two divergent forces, rival forces. One government, it was never government's candidate. Government just, PTI at that point
Yeah.
in time just sided with the People's Party for their own reasons.
You're right.
It was neither he was, and when we talk about they want to bring their own man, whose man he was?
And we are going to talk about the man who's being brought in, because that is also important. But let me go to Javed Jadoon sir. Sir, your take on this matter. Asif Ali Zardari or his minions, his supporters actually told us that they want to placate the establishment without any evidence. But the fact is, at that time, only money was being spent when the entire wheeling dealing was taking place. And it was primarily the money that could be traced back to Asif Ali Zardari or his supporters. Now, why change this entire situation at this time? And if it is really about Asif Ali Zardari seeking some kind of concession, then someday they might be able to get away with murder, because then they have that kind of control.
Thank you very much, Farooq. I think for me, the important question is not who is going to win tomorrow in the upper house.
Yeah.
For me, the important question is why. It would be, Farooq, oversimplistic to say that it is part of a democratic process or democracy. Well, I think it is part of democratic process and democracy, but the strange bedfellows getting together, if you look at the composition of the combined opposition, very ideologically poles apart people are getting together. And the only objective is to dislodge the sitting chairman. And very strangely, the sitting chairman is not the controversial figure as well.
Yeah.
If you ask any political figure from the opposition, they are not able to give any rational, logical explanation why they have moved or tabled this no confidence motion against the sitting chairman. They are talking about something which is very, very difficult to comprehend. Democracy doesn't mean that after every 6 months or 1 year, you table a no confidence resolution against a sitting chairman Senate or a Speaker National Assembly, or even for that matter, the Prime Minister of the country. Because you have to have the reasons. If he wasn't running the House in a balanced manner, you could have maybe given a logic that, well, the sitting chairman is not doing justice to his assignment or his chair.
You
it wasn't the
have
case.
to give an example, a reason to remove somebody, right?
Absolutely.
And there's no reason. They
There is
keep on
absolutely
praising
no reason.
him.
No reason. And secondly, when they elected this chairman, he was a very unknown figure. Nobody knew him. He came from
Zero experience of any elected body at that time.
Absolutely.
But now he has
even
experience.
that was kind of a strange move on part of Pakistan People's Party. They were the people who spearheaded the campaign to elect him. They basically destabilized the Balochistan government as well, and eventually,
But
as
it
you
down,
said
actually.
in your intro, that money changed hands, and ultimately they were able to elect Mr. Sanjrani as Chairman Senate. And now I think
No, I don't know whether money changed hands to get him elected. But during the election of Senate, there was a lot of money. And we heard about people actually coming up with duffel bags full of money and then giving it to people so that they cast their vote according to the interest of People's Party
That
or
was
whatever.
friendly exchange.
Yeah, friendly exchange.
of money.
even the choice of the new the candidate for the chairmanship is very strange. I think you were talking about Pakistan People's Party. In my opinion, even Pakistan Muslim League N, they have a axe to grind against the sitting Prime Minister and the government.
They do,
because,
of course.
Because they believe that by doing that, they would be sending a message. I don't think the message is going to be an important message for anyone, whether the establishment or the government. Because if you see the composition, they have a clear majority.
Right.
They are about, I think, 63 or 64 members
They
in the,
claim
in the
67,
upper house.
but,
And on the contrary, the ruling party, the ruling alliance, has, I think, about 24 or so odd people
30
over there.
plus, actually.
30
Yeah.
plus. So I think the numbers game is definitely in their favor. But if they are not able to, if the motion doesn't carry through, it's going to be a huge embarrassment for the opposition as well.
Yeah, it might be an embarrassment for the opposition, but it might actually give a lot of meat to the conspiracy theorists in the media, and they'll just go haywire tomorrow, right?
Embarrassment on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides, of course. But let me go back to Zahim Khan Sahab. Okay, it might be democratic right of the opposition to change mood according to no reasons at all, but if they want to bring about a change, they might. Interesting thing is in the candidate, name of the candidate that has been presented. Hasil Bazinjo is hosting a party even right now as we speak in the honor of opposition leaders and opposition parties. Hasil Bazinjo doesn't belong to People's Party. He does not belong to PMLN. People's Party initially was thought that it is going to give a name of its own candidate. That didn't happen. They said they'll go according to the choice of PMLN. And then PMLN, the majority party in the Senate, also decided that it is not going to go with their own candidate. They are going to ask for another from a smaller party. So doesn't it show you about the something about the insecurities of feudal mindset in politics?
Well, I don't think any feudal mindset is involved here. There are two very clear factors. One, the Balochistan factor.
Okay.
You know, Balochistan is a province.
PMLN has senator from Balochistan.
Well, not of the stature that Hasil Bazinjo enjoys. And secondly, they needed a consensus figure because more than one parties are involved, and these parties are in competition with each other as well.
Okay.
So in such situations, it's very normal for the parties involved to pick a consensus figure, a person that everybody feels comfortable with. Hasil Bazinjo is a very senior politician,
Okay.
enjoys a lot of prestige. He has struggled for democracy, and he's from Balochistan, most important of all, because if Sanjarani Sahab is also from Balochistan, and you know, Balochistan, people of Balochistan have certain grievances,
Right.
and after a long time, they had one of their legislators in a top position. So
Okay.
it might have hurt them, and it is good that opposition too has picked a leader, a candidate from that province.
So it doesn't remind you of Qudratullah Shahab when he says that when I was a deputy commissioner, I wanted to open a school in one of the villages.
Yes.
And
Zimidar came to
the
him.
feudal lord of that region comes to me and says that, okay, don't open the school here. You're just going to pollute the minds of the locals who are my subject. Go and open the school in the nearby village because that actually belongs to my shariks, my enemies, and then pollute there. Is it not also reflective of the fact that when PMLN's leadership was in exile and Javed Hashmi was the leader of the party, he was asked to distribute a letter that actually ensured that he had to spend many years behind bars because they were afraid that he might become too big for his boots?
Well, Pitavi Sahib, this is a very convenient story that we in black coats and red ties like to tell.
Okay.
Tell me one thing.
Neither.
Yes. Well, tell me one thing. Kohistan district of KP, there are 350 schools that was demolished during the earthquake,
Right.
and they remain without roofless.
Okay.
There are 4,000 children, you see, who cannot attend these schools throughout the year. Only they can attend school, of course, for a part of year,
Yeah.
but it is a district with a very harsh province.
Right.
I mean, what feudal stopped the PTI and before that MMA and before that other governments
Yeah.
from rebuilding those schools?
Okay.
The problem is a lot bigger. I mean, there may be a stray feudal or two,
No, but I
who
was-
has stopped our governments, successive governments?
No, I understand
from
you're talking about
allocating
schools,
good
and I
budgets?
love to talk about
Yes,
schools
yes.
as well. I was talking about a party's leaderships and security, that in their absence, and especially when they are in a position of weakness, if they allow somebody to assume the highest office, he might become too big for his boots, and that's why they cannot risk it. And they have to outsource the position to somebody else.
It's not about, you see, feudal mindset. Of course, you don't want to give too much of an advantage to an adversary party. In this case, People's Party, even while
People's
they are
Party was saying that we
No,
are
of course.
ready to nominate somebody from PMLN.
well, PML found. I mean, PML had a long-standing alliance with Hasil Bazinjo. Hasil
Two
Bazinjo
men
is very
sitting
close.
behind bars are actually calling shots. Mian Nawaz Sharif,
And
Asif Ali
exactly this is
Zafar.
what happened.
Well, they're leaders of the parties, and party is there. I think I don't know.
Sir,
What's problem
Arif
with that?
Sadi,
First of all,
sir, do you agree with this
Yeah,
assumption?
I do not agree at all with my learned friend because it is very simplistic view of democracy and politics, and everybody has a right. And I really enjoy listening to him because otherwise there is no fun in sitting over here if we don't have divergent opinions.
Okay.
Everybody has a right.
Yeah.
So because talking about you wonderfully picked up one example, and I really remember, I also went through that,
Shahnama.
Shahnama, and that was very interesting that, and in the evening he was, when the door was knocked, he was happy that, the landlord might have come. To
thank him.
To thank him, but to his astonishment, he said, what you have done to us? He said, what did I do? He said, you are going to spoil these Aris and, these laborers who are not. Anyhow, it's not question about system because neither Mir Hasan Bazinjo is one of the toiling millions or, one of those who really have no say in any of the house or overall in their own house. Or it is, the Muslim League Noon is not showing any courtesy to those, who are deprived, or especially from Balochistan, because we have never seen this thing happening so far from either of the parties.
Sure.
And I would say, so far we have not seen from the government also, because nothing is taking place, as far as the toiling millions and people belonging to those areas are. Naturally, it's not only Balochistan which is, lagging behind in progress development. There are Pakistan as a whole is suffering. But one thing which we have to really zero in, and I tend to agree with my learned friend that, why this has been picked. It's not matter of changing the man.
Okay.
It is a war which is being spearheaded by Maulana Fazlur Rahman.
Okay.
And they decided that how we can convey a message. It's not only to the government.
Why
And,
Maulana Fazlur Rahman?
that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That Maulana Fazlur Rahman, who was, approached, notwithstanding the fact that, the Prime Minister and the PTI had, he didn't want to pronounce his name, and accept that, wherever, with the insinuations of, diesel or whatever. So now his party, leader in the Senate, he went to his house. So to my mind, the job was done as far as the opposition was concerned when they went to Maulana Fazlur Rahman to
Right.
seek his help. Because actually it's not matter of number games and counting tomorrow. It's already defeat. They accepted that it is Maulana
No, but
Fazlur.
I understand that theory. But the humble submission is that Maulana Fazlur Rahman is highly intolerant of Hasil Bazinjo. When they had their government in Balochistan, every day he used to go
No,
to
that
Nawaz
is-
Sharif and used to say, let me bring them
Tafi,
down.
that is important point.
Yeah.
It's not matter of choice of a person, who whether he is liked by anybody or not.
Okay.
It is the choice of that action, which has to start from Senate, and then has to follow with a lot of other things, in the pipeline.
And we are going to actually talk about what exactly does the opposition seek to
It
gain
is
from
the
it.
corruption cases.
So we are going to talk about that, and we are going to go into the details of strategy as well. But Javed Jadoon sir, the same question to you. The candidate who has been nominated, do you see it merely as an effort to take Balochistan on board? Or is it more, it has more to it than meets the eye?
I think, Farooq, I believe that once again Nawaz Sharif demonstrated that he was behaving like a monarch. While behind the bars, I think the story was narrated by Asil Bizenjo himself last night in an interview. He said that nobody knew in the party who was going to be nominated till message came from the Kot Lakhpat jail that Mr. Bizenjo is going to be the candidate of the joint opposition. Secondly, I think it's not because, I mean, this is my personal opinion. Why we are talking about a quota system? Why necessarily somebody from Balochistan? This is the third highest office in Pakistan. And I think it should be decided on purely on merit. I'm not saying that Mir Asil Bizenjo doesn't deserve to be the Senate chairman.
No,
but when we say that Balochistan
talking about quota
has to be
system,
replaced from Balochistan.
Sir, with due respect, the incumbent who was actually elevated to this position as a result of this argument, that somebody from Balochistan has to be empowered. So this argument, I can
think
see
Farag,
this argument.
you made the point yourself that when Mr. Zardari decided to support Sanjrani, the whole party, his whole party was supporting the candidate of his own party.
Former Chairman Senate.
Chairman Senate. And now, if you look at the decision made by
right?
Pakistan Muslim League, and when they knew that their candidate is not going to win, they nominated Raja Sahab, Raja Zafrullah. And now, when they believe that they can win, Raja Zafrullah has been sidelined and somebody from Balochistan has been nominated. I mean, this is the mindset that they, as I think I tend to agree with you, that they do not want to see a parallel leadership emerging from within the party. I'm talking about the main two political parties, PPP and PMLN as well. And once again, a dynastic kind of a situation. You are calling shots from behind the bars. There's no discussion, no debate going on within the party itself. Pakistan People's Party, I think they were very clear about that. There is right of Pakistan Muslim League and being the majority party in the upper house. And the majority party decides to bring in somebody from the minority party. I mean, this is the kind of a circus going on in the last 30 years.
This argument, sir, actually, that People's Party is deferring to the majority party, right? It was not there only 1 year ago, when they were actually saying that we are going to undermine Mian Nawaz Sharif and his party, and we are going to install somebody from a new party that at that time didn't even have a name.
Farag, if you ask me why it is being done, I can give you a very simple, very simplistic answer. It is the kind of reaction and the anger Mr. Zardari and Mr. Nawaz Sharif are showing towards the establishment. There is no two opinion that they are despising the establishment. And I'm talking about the security establishment, which comprises the armed forces.
How is Sanjrani establishments represented?
They only believe that by changing this man, the gentleman as a chairman Senate who is sitting there, they thought that, and they still believe that. He was supported. I mean, it was an open secret, I think, even in the newspapers, editorially, and even in the columns and the TV debates as well. People were saying in few words that Mr. Sanjrani, who was a nobody, was promoted as a Senate chairman, and the powers that be.
This is, with due respect, this is who Asif Ali Zardari is. He nominates the candidates who don't have that kind of stature. I mean, for the first time as well, he didn't want to nominate Raza Rabbani at all. You remember his favorites, Farooq Naik and then a certain gentleman from Islamabad, Nayyar Saab.
Exactly.
So it is how he functions. It has nothing to do with the establishment.
Farag, this is the mindset. This is what I'm talking about. They are not behaving like political leaders, not the people who believe in certain kind of ideology. I think ideological differences are no more there. Every political party has more or less the same manifesto, same approach, same strategy, and same kind of a working from within the political parties
themselves. With the exception
themselves.
of Maulana Fazlur Rahman.
Maulana Fazlur Rahman is once again, he is not a politician. In my opinion, he is a cult leader. He is a religious leader.
He is a politician. He is a master politician.
He is not a politician. Politician in the traditional sense I'm talking about, he's not a politician. Look at the kind of a cult following he has, like Maulana Qadri. I think there is no difference between the two. Political parties, there are only three main political parties: Pakistan People's Party, PMLN, and PTI. And now, I think the credit should go to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf led government in Islamabad, that they never tried to delay the process of this motion being taken by the upper house.
Media keeps on telling us that there might be.
They could have
an
done
attempt.
that. They could have delayed
they
it for
could
3
have,
months.
but they didn't do it.
They didn't do
Okay, Zaham Hans have, fast forward. Tomorrow, let us assume that Chairman Senate changes. Then what? What does the opposition gain out of this?
Well, I mean, a position.
War game it for us.
Well, in terms of, I think, optics is important. The most important fact is optics, and perhaps optics alone.
Not legislation.
Well, I mean, in legislation, legislation is done by numbers. In Senate, they have the numbers, and
Yeah,
they
but-
will have the numbers for 1 more year.
Yeah, but standing committees are actually constituted by the Chairman Senate, and then if you constitute a hostile standing committee, that means that bill will die there. It will never see the light of the day.
We don't have that kind of problem in standing committees at the moment. I mean, those standing committees alongside all the parliament are not very effective at the moment.
Maulana Fazlur Rahman's own, party member, when he was heading the Interior, Standing Committee on Interior, Senate Committee, for 2.5 years, he managed to stifle an entire terrorism law, and it never moved beyond that. So this can happen.
Well, I mean, parties have their positions, and parties, I mean, on basis of their position, they support legislation, they try to kill legislation, but change of the chairman Senate is not going to affect the position as it is.
Okay.
It is a constitutional position, it is a very prestigious position, and if rather than an ally of the government, an opposition person enjoys this position, opposition will have this kind of optics that they are strong, they're in a strong position, and they have, you see, a message of defiance to the government. At that moment, they're under a lot of pressure.
Okay.
And the kind of narrative they are facing. I mean, look, I mean, what Prime Minister is saying, that all of them are corrupt. All politicians in Pakistan who have not joined PTI are corrupt. But they become clean when they join the PTI. That's the narrative.
No,
For God's sake, I mean, opposition. I mean,
everybody is going to say
let
that.
Let them
Remember,
face.
Saas bhi kabhi bahu thi. PMLN used to say the same thing.
That's unfortunate.
People's Party also implied the same thing.
Unfortunate. We need the rule of law. I mean, let everyone face the
Yeah,
rule
but-
of law rather than going through this
No,
toxic
but
narratives.
here's an amazing story. Asif Ali Zardari, when he's free, media is free. When Asif Ali Zardari is free, then, the accountability process is bad, but it is not that bad. The moment he goes inside, immediately certain anchors actually start saying that media is under pressure, and then we see a lot of people questioning accountability process as well.
Well, parties have their positions, and we may disagree
Everybody
with
does,
it. Of
right?
course, I mean, all parties do that. All parties do that. I mean, it was doomsday when PTI was not in power. I mean, look what Imran Khan was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, all parties say that, but as an analyst, we don't have to agree with them.
No,
and
but
we have
here's
our
the
independent position.
problem. If you go for a survey regarding Asif Ali Zardari, I mean, there are people who will have two thoughts about Nawaz Sharif per se. But in regarding Asif Ali Zardari, you will find a lot of almost universal consensus that he has been guilty of certain things, right? This is the perception. And yet when he is held accountable, the entire system has to be shaken to the roots. And somehow everybody agrees and starts
Well,
working.
I don't think any of us. I mean, I don't have much love for Asif Ali Zardari
I know.
and his brand of politics,
I know.
and not only in terms of politics, but what he has done to People's Party itself.
Right.
Right. That's, I mean, talking about parties, leaders, and how parties are run.
Right.
And as Jadoon Saab also mentioned, it's very unfortunate that not a single Pakistan's party is run democratically in this country.
Absolutely.
They are
Agreed.
They are run like, you see, corporations that are owned by directors.
Right.
And
There has to be a
family
board of
directors.
director
That's
and
a-
then has to be a
that is-
chairman,
that is-
right?
that is very
Of the board.
that's very unfortunate.
And
Right.
then there is no meeting of the board.
Right. And then there's no meeting. Yeah.
Sole proprietorship
I
rather.
really now there is a point where I really tend to agree with Zagab Khan that all political parties have same strategy, same modus operandi, and same way of working. We don't find any difference. They try to do and they try to never try to learn from the past. But one thing which I want to add, in this discussion, why Mir Hasan Bazinjo was picked up by Mr. Nawaz Sharif is the mindset. Because if you recall that, they are at same page as far as anti-establishment, pro-Indian stance is concerned. Nobody will, you know that,
Pro-Indian. Come on.
No, pro-Indian, because, I don't want to allege, in a very bitter manner, but as far as, the mantra of these two gentlemen is concerned, they were in unison. They were together on one point, and that is, the call against the establishment, and you know that. But anyhow, let's not really go too much on this issue.
Yeah.
But one thing which
No,
is
my concern is, I see your point, and I understand there are many people who actually agree with you.
Yeah.
But this idea that somehow if I'm corrupt and if you're going to hold me accountable, then I'm going to actually try to pull the rug out of your feet, that is potent enough.
that is working here, because
India angle or not,
No,
that
no,
doesn't
forget,
matter.
okay, I just don't want, because I have never tried to, really bank upon this point, and I really don't want it. But one thing is very important, which should not be, taken, lost sight of, that, why this is happening, in short span of time. Why this, sole agenda of Pakistan People's Party and Muslim League Nawaz is to change the man, in the Senate, because he doesn't belong to PTI.
Okay.
He doesn't belong to either of the parties,
And he predates, his position predates PTI's coming into power.
Yeah, PTI was not in power at the point when he came into power, when he was elected the chairman. Now, it is all symbolic. No matter whosoever might be, because as far as, his mindset is concerned, he will never tolerate his own intelligent man, Zardari. That's why that was the point when he picked up Sadiq Sanjarani instead of Raza Rabbani. Muslim League Noon was asking him to bring him there, and he would be a consensus candidate.
Yeah.
But he did not like the consensus candidate, notwithstanding the fact that he was very close. He is a party stalwart and has always been throughout with Pakistan, with his People's Party since Bhutto's time. But now, what are they going to gain out of this? The message, first of all, that, see what change we have brought in the Senate. And, every day you see and listen what Bilawal Bhutto is saying. They are banking upon, they don't care whether people are dying of floods and, the entire Karachi is gutted. And, everything is like ruined, and there is nothing, no civic amenity over there. They don't care for anything.
Right.
None of them has issued any statement. All are busy over here in, wheeling, dealing about change of, which is not going to bring any change in the
That is
system.
actually worrying, because it undermines their own party's credibility. That you are in opposition and you should have been talking about the rights of people. Instead, you're talking about your own rights. So you end up actually marginalizing yourself further. Javed Zadoon Sahab, I'm told that you will be the last speaker, then we have to conclude the program. Please go ahead if you want to add.
I think, Farag, the hidden, probably the hidden agenda of the combined opposition is to, once they get hold of the upper house, I think they would like to stall the legislative process, any initiative by the PTI government, and they would like to lay landmines in the path of any legislation being done or being planned by the PTI government, because once you take over the upper house, I think definitely you are going to create a lot of difficulties for PTI government.
Right.
And though it might be a limited time period, as you said, maybe 1 year or so, or 14, 16
slightly
months,
more, yeah.
but I think in any government's tenure, 14, 16 months are very, very important.
Yeah.
If you take away those 14, 16 months and you create problems, there is no legislation, I think this is going to really, really hurt the PTI government.
And the problem is then PTI is going to talk to the people, whether it was that effective or not. It is going to tell the people that we wanted to actually bring
Yes.
in the laws.
Absolutely.
And these guys actually stifled the chances, and that's why they failed your government. Don't vote for them in the next election.
Absolutely.
And
So-
then
so-
you actually end up taking their failures upon yourself.
Upon yourself. And they would be doing a favor to the PTI.
And that favor starts from tomorrow, right, sir? Javed Jadun sir, thank you very much for your time. Arif Chaudhry sahab, a great pleasure having you here in the studio. Same goes for you, Zahman sahab. Thank you very much for being part of the program. We still have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. And we have to see what exactly is going to be the strategy of political parties, especially opposition parties. But the concern here is that in the past, whenever opposition parties used to talk about their own rights, they kind of used to pretend that they care about the people's rights as well. It doesn't seem to be the case now. Whenever you listen to the public talks of the leaders from these two parties, they are merely talking about their own victimhood, not people's suffering. And that should worry you, because then it starts undermining the whole philosophy of democracy. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.